Hello everyone, and welcome back to another one of my mini tutorials. Today, we'll be making this cute Coquette miniskirt. Let's get right into it. For your materials today, you're going to need about 300 grams of weight 4 yarn, both a 5mm and 10mm hook, as well as some sort of a reference skirt or just a tape measure and some stitch markers. To the right, there's the written pattern, which will also be posted on my Instagram, but for the video, the steps will be listed as you move through it. These are just for people who request them sometimes. It makes it a little easier for them to follow along. I do recommend checking it out. Step 1, we're going to be taking our measurements. You want to have your waist, waistband height, and skirt height written down. You can take them either up against the sort of like skirt that you already have, or you can use a tape measure and go around your own body. Step 2, we're going to be making the actual waistband. You'll want to grab your 5mm hook and then start by making a slip knot. To make the waistband, you're basically just going to be taking that long measurement that you took and making a giant chain that same amount of length that you need. So for example, I'm doing 28 minus 1, so it'll come out to about 27 inches. That minus 1 is used specifically so that way we can make up for the stretchiness of the yarn. Before you continue with your project, you want to take your measurements here to make sure that it's all even. Since this is the foundation of your piece, if this part is off, then it's going to be off for the rest of this. Once you have the right length, you're simply just going to slip stitch these first and last stitches together. You want the entire chain stitch to be very flat before you connect them, so that way you don't end up with any curving amongst the stitches that you've already made. And also make sure to go through the front of the stitches that you're using. After they're connected, chain 1 so you can start your next row. Now's a good time to measure again, make sure everything lines up right. Once you know your measurements are the way you'd like them, it's time to start row 2, which is where we're going to be using our half double crochets. For each and every stitch, you are just going to be putting one half double crochet in, and please make sure you don't skip that first stitch that we made. Half double crochets are used so that way the skirt stays up on your waist without smushing you too tight. Once you're near the end of your row, you're going to find that yarn tail you made from that slip knot. What you want to do is weave it in as you go so that way you don't see it at the end. This will make your piece look super clean and you won't have to worry about any tails sticking out once you weave them in. To finish off this row, you just want to slip stitch into the first half double crochet that you made and then chain 1 so you can continue going through. Please make sure that you're only going through the top part of the stitch and not the gap below it. And like I said, once you're done with that, you're just going to chain 1 time and continue half double crocheting around until you reach the desired height of your waistband. Mine ends up being 4 full rows of half double crochets. Step 3 is the actual body of the skirt. This is where we're going to switch to our 10mm hook. Since we want this coquette, flowy look, we want to make sure everything is loose. That's why we use the big hook. Reinsert the hook and make sure you have 3 chains now using this big one instead of the 5mm. Don't be nervous that your stitches aren't tight. You want everything to be super loose so that way it's flowy later on. And also, please take your time. These stitches can be a bit tricky, so you want to go slowly so you don't miss any. The point of this row is to do 1 triple crochet in each stitch to give us a base so we can increase around the edges later. If you've never made a triple crochet before, simply yarn over twice and treat it like a double crochet after, pulling through 2 loops at a time until you reach the end. And again, do this until you reach the other side of the row, so keep going around and around until you're back at the start. Be very careful not to pull too hard. You want these to be loose, nothing should pull or be tight. Once you're back at the start, you want to slip stitch into that first triple crochet you made. Look carefully for the hole and don't go into the gap below it. To start out your next row, you simply want to chain 3, and then we'll continue from here. Again, leave slack and measure if you need to, then come back to this point. Your piece should be roughly even after just the 1 row, but it'll get more so as we go. When you lay it out, you'll notice it's a big circle, meaning you don't need as many increases to make it bigger. What we do want to make bigger is the back of the skirt, so it covers you up a little bit for a slightly more modest and comfortable look. I'm adding 2 stitch markers, 15 stitches apart to make this, but you can change it if you have a bigger butt, or if you just want more coverage all the way around. If you want the opposite, make a smaller space or none at all. This is just meant to be a little bit more inclusive for different sizes. After you've made your stitch markers, you want to reinsert your hook and continue all the way around. Stop triple crocheting when you get to that first stitch marker. Here, we're going to be doing quadruple crochets, which is just a triple crochet with an extra yarn over, so it'll be 3 total. Same as before, you're just going to push over, yarn through 2 again, and do that until you're at the very end. This little bit of height will give us a little bit more coverage in the back. Make sure you reattach your stitch markers into the row above it where you just placed one, simply so you don't lose your spot for the next row. I'm going to show you this one more time slowly because a quadruple crochet is pretty much never used. I don't even know if that's the real term for it, but it's, the same thing following the order, double, triple, etc. And again, like I said, if you're not looking for any cover up, just continue around the skirt following the steps without this little space in the back. Once you get to your other stitch marker, make sure that you reinsert that one as well into the row above it, and then you're just going to continue around with triple crochets until the end. Once you're there, you're going to slip into that first stitch that you made, and then again chain 3 so you can continue with the next triple crocheting row. You will do the exact same thing as this row and the rest of the upcoming ones, but you also want to add increases to the 4 points of your skirt for the rest of this. You'll be adding 2 triple crochets or 2 double crochets into those points, so that way it adds a little bit more of this fluffier look around the edges. You're going to be doing this until you reach the desired height for your skirt. I personally make 3 more, but you can do as few or as many as you want. Once you're done with those, your skirt should look very similar to mine, even though the sizes themselves may be a little different. Finish up your skirt, you're going to add a hem by reinserting your hook and adding 2 single crochets into every stitch. Of course, you can make any sort of hem you want, but I like this ruffly one because it's very simple and it adds a nice finish and it leaves your skirt looking like you actually put a little bit of extra time into it instead of just making a quick project for fun. Single crochet all the way around to the end of the row. Once you're at the end of your row, you're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet you made, this time chaining 1 and cutting your work, pulling the yarn through afterwards. This way we can weave in the end quickly and finish it all up. Once you're done, your skirt should look very, very similar to mine now, even if it's a little bit bigger or smaller. You can be done here, or you can use the optional drawstring method to finish up your skirt. For this step 4, we're going to be starting with a slip knot for the drawstring and then chaining double the length of your waistband. This lets us weave it through each of the little stitches without losing any length and tying a cute bow at the end. This is super simple. After your chain is done, you're simply just going to cut the yarn and pull it through. Then you want to make sure that your ends themselves are even so they look like you meant to leave them there, because it looks a little awkward to weave in ends to an actual chain. It's sort of like the aglet of a shoelace, if that makes sense. To add the drawstring itself, you want to find the very middle of your skirt, or the spot where the front's going to be, and add it to the middle of the waistband. This is very simple. You just take your little drawstring here, and then pull it through that spot where you inserted your hook, making sure to bring it all the way to the other side so it's easy to weave. I pull through on every 3 stitches, meaning the 4th one is where I insert my hook, and this creates a really cute little pattern, and it makes it very, very functional. You're going to basically do this all the way around until you get back to the middle of your skirt, so it'll take you just a brief moment. And after this, you are entirely finished with your skirt. It should look just like this when it's done, with a working drawstring and some nice modest cover-up in the backside. I really hope you enjoyed this mini tutorial, and please let me know in the comments if I went a little too fast. I'll slow them down a bit in the future. If this video helped you, please leave me a like and subscribe for new videos every Tuesday. Also, take a look at my Instagram and my Depop for written patterns and to buy the items that I make. Once again, thank you all so much, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye!